is a vast grassland that mirrors the great African savanna. But where are the herds of antelope and the predators that chase them? The Cerrado appears empty, but in this mysterious land, appearances are deceiving. It teems with bizarre life. The predator is a mutant mammal with a tongue longer than a human arm. The wolf eats fruit. Monkeys walk upright, just like humans. The ghosts of long-extinct creatures haunt the grassland, providing clues to a violent past. In this vast theater of evolution, every creature survives thanks to its superior mutations. And because the players evolved together, in a community like no other. How does this strange world work? And how did it come to be? South America. And sprawling across central Brazil lies the Cerrado, meaning inaccessible. A 202 million hectare grassland 3 times the size of Texas. On this night in late October, it's as if the stars themselves are falling to Earth. A mysterious phenomenon that has existed for millions of years. Daylight reveals a bizarre landscape. The Cerrado trademark, termite mounds. Many, many termite mounds. Up to 320 per hectare. The dry season has begun. 6 months of almost no rainfall. But where are the mammals that live here? The landscape seems empty except for the mounds. But there is movement. It's a giant anteater on an early morning forage. With a 2.1 meter long, 36 kilogram body, claws like a bear, and a tail like a witch's broom. The giant anteater is one bizarre-looking mammal. This is a female, and she has a baby, about 6 months old. From the outside, termite mounds seem relatively deserted. But inside is an architectural masterpiece of tunnels, galleries, and chambers, bustling with millions of termites. And the anteater has the sensory and physical tools to get them. Though nearly blind, she has a sense of smell 40 times more powerful than humans. So finding the feast is easy. The termite mounds are clay fortresses. But the anteater's claws are designed for breaking and entering. And her specialized mouthparts do the rest. The giant anteater has no teeth, and her tongue extends over 1/2 meter. It's attached by muscles at the bottom of her breastbone. They propel the tongue as it flicks in and out more than 150 times a minute. Prey is glued by sticky saliva, produced from giant salivary glands, and then sucked up through a narrow tube inside her fused jaws. She can slurp up 30,000 termites a day, which is what she needs to stay alive. So why eat such a tiny food source? The answer lies in what the termites eat. After dark, legions of worker termites venture outside their home. They work at night because these mound dwellers can't survive in sunlight. Collectively, each mound gathers as much as 45 kilograms of dry grasses and plants in one night. About 4 times the amount of grass a cow can eat in a day. Inside each mound, the termites feast on the grass, transforming it into protein in their digestive systems. With each mound housing more than 1 million protein-packed termites, this isn't such a bad diet for a giant, after all. But there is one part of the termite mound that no anteater can probe. Deep in an underground chamber lies a monstrous form. It's the termite queen who controls the colony. As the only breeder, she lays tens of thousands of eggs a day, producing a vast family of brothers and sisters. The eggs are fed pheromones before they hatch, predetermining their future role. But all work unceasingly for colony survival, expanding the mound as the family grows. It takes decades of construction to build a new termite mound. But fossil remains prove termites have had over 200 million years of practice. So why is it that giant anteaters are unique to South America, when termites are widespread across the planet? A bird's-eye view of the ancient Cerrado gives us a clue. The landscape looks very much like the great African savanna. The climatic cycle of drought and rain on the Cerrado is also similar to the African grasslands. And this giant rhea looks very much like the African ostrich. The male taking care of the eggs, just like the male ostrich does. It's no coincidence. 180 million years ago, South America, Africa, and Antarctica were all connected as part of the densely forested giant supercontinent, Gondwana. Around 150 million years ago, Africa began to split from South America, a process lasting 45 million years. As the continent separated, the first small mammals were emerging. So some were trapped in Africa and others in South America, where they began evolving along very different pathways. The majority of South America was still covered in dense forests when the giant anteater's family appeared. They're called Xenathra, meaning strange joints, because unlike any other mammal, They have extra joints between their vertebrae, which strengthen their backs and aid their forelegs when digging into mounds. DNA shows the first xenarthran appeared in South America around 70 million years ago. About 5 million years later, the ancestral xenarthran evolved into many. One branch of the family tree produced the armor-plated creatures, like armadillos. Another branch produced families of hairy xenarthrans, including the anteaters. Many ancient xenarthrans became extinct. But the giant anteater? It seems that large herds of hoofed herbivores, or notoungulates, once did thrive in South America. But they flourished while the continent was believed to be covered in dense forest. So what the animals ate was a startling revelation.
It was a plant eater, and we can tell that from its teeth. And we can also tell what sort of plants it ate. It ate ones in open habitats that were very abrasive, that would wear down its teeth, and that's because it has these very tall crown teeth that we call hypsodont. If we take a look in this dimension, we see that they're flat on top, and that's because they get worn down by eating this very tough vegetation.
That very tough vegetation was grass. The discovery of a hoofed grazing animal hardly seems revolutionary. But the ancient grazers discovered at the Tinguiririca fossil dig lived around 32 million years ago. That's about 14 million years older than the African savanna, which until now, paleobiologists consider to be the oldest. This gave the termites of the Cerrado, and animals that depended on them, an evolutionary kickstart. But how did these South American grasslands begin? 34 million years ago, a massive geological event took place. Australia finally split from Antarctica, and Gondwana was no more. Freezing polar currents flowed around the newly isolated Antarctica, and it began to ice over. One of the first land masses to feel Antarctica's icy breath was the continent closest to it, South America. It's likely this triggered the forests to shrink in Chile and Brazil, and a new plant to dominate the barren, exposed soils. Grass. Fast-growing and rich in minerals, transformed the South American landscape forever. The fossils found at Tinguiririca represent the grazing mammals that would have also lived on the ancient Cerrado. The universal rule of the natural world is that where you find herds of grazers, you also find large predators. On the Cerrado, one predator was the 3-meter-tall, 350-kilogram terror bird. It couldn't fly, but it could run as fast as a cheetah. A specialized killer. It could swallow some prey in one gulp. The small hoofed grazers and the giant anteater's ancestors all fell victim to the terror bird. But 30 million years later, the giant anteater exists, whereas the terror bird and the hoofed grazers are all long extinct. Two million years ago, South America experienced its first ice age. Over the next 2 million years, a cycle of ice ages and warm periods, repeated 20 times. During the warm cycles, over half of the ancient grass-eating species went extinct, as forests swallowed up the grasslands, and their food became scarce. But the tough termites weathered each crisis, and with them, so did the anteater. By relying on tiny, abundant termites, the giant anteater, the ancient terror bird, also disappeared, outcompeted by the new predators. On the rocky hills bordering the grasslands lives a community of black-striped capuchins. Their ancestors originated in African forests 30 million years ago and arrived in South America well before the Great Interchange, most likely via another method of colonization, rafting on logs or debris across the ocean. Usually, capuchin monkeys feed on fruits in rainforest canopies. But trees on the edge of the Cerrado don't bear much fruit. So the monkeys climb down to forage. There's no shortage of coconuts, though, and the capuchins have figured out how to get the juice. About 3 months ago, these enterprising monkeys harvested another batch of coconuts and left them to dry. And now, they're ready to crack open. The ingenious primates use tools to smash the super tough husks and expose the nutritious nut. Some rocks weigh half as much as the monkey. Repetitive nut bashing and stone carrying have altered the capuchin's leg and back muscles, allowing them to walk upright like humans. The Cerrado's dry climate driving the evolution of this extraordinary behavior. All this noise and activity attracts the attention of the largest carnivorous predator on the Cerrado, the jaguar. The risk of predation is highest as the Cerrado reaches its driest. The vast expanse of the Cerrado is now a sea of parched grasses. The female anteater he can tell by her scent that she's ready to mate. The pup, frightened by the male, runs and hides. Giant anteaters mate just once every 2 years because the females can only afford enough energy to raise one pup at a time. As the male leaves, the mum welcomes her pup back for now. When she's ready to give birth in just over 6 months, the pup must make his own way. Mid-October, and storm clouds gather over the Cerrado. But there's no rain. Instead, the storm produces dry lightning, and suddenly, the Cerrado is on fire. With no rain for 6 months, the fire spreads quickly across the tinder-dry grassland. the Cerrado residents face their toughest ordeal. Those that can flee, desperate to outrun or outmaneuver the rampant wildfires. The inferno engulfs the termite mounds. When the fire burns itself out, the Cerrado seems lifeless. Sparked by lightning strikes, fire has been an annual event for millions of years. And many inhabitants have learned to avoid its ravages, like the boa constrictor, who survived by burrowing underground. Grassland has turned to scorched earth. But the flickerbird chicks are safe, protected by the solid walls built by the termites, along with all the other inhabitants of the mound. The mounds can withstand every disaster in the harsh environment of the Cerrado. They're flame-proof, and the air holes at ground level prevent the inhabitants asphyxiating on smoke and carbon dioxide. Gradually, the survivors appear to take stock. After the fire, rain finally falls. Just as the Cerrado is adapted to drought, it now responds to rain. The plants and trees have their own evolutionary tricks to come back to life after fire. On the burned ground, there's a rush of green as grass seeds germinate. To survive the fires, grasses store their nutrients underground. Even the few trees have evolved thick cork layers to protect the living tissue from fire. Now, activated by rain, the Cerrado transforms into an oasis. Luckily, the giant anteater and her pup escaped this year's fire fronts. Late afternoon, and the rain stops briefly. The conditions are right. Inside the mounds, the queens have been producing offspring different from the usual workers. Termites with wings. And now is the time to reveal why. An invisible signal triggers an exodus of winged males and females from thousands of termite mounds. Once a year, this exquisitely choreographed mating flight is evolution's ingenious method of allowing the siblings from each mound to mate with unrelated termites. It breaks the genetic stranglehold of the single breeding queen from each mound. Every mated female becomes a queen in her own right and returns to the ground with her mate to begin a new mound, eventually laying billions of eggs in her 10-year lifetime. As night falls, the termite mounds transform, each sparkling with tiny dots of green light, all appearing synchronized as they start shining. It's as if the stars above the Cerrado have fallen to Earth. This is the larva of the headlight beetle, another mound squatter. A chemical reaction produces green bioluminescence in a pore in its head. These larvae live buried in the mound walls for up to 3 years. And deep within their DNA, they're programmed for this annual event. Their illumination suddenly switches on, and winged termites are attracted by the light. As they fly close, the vibration from their wings causes the larvae to shine more brightly. And it's a fatal attraction. The headlight beetle larvae have waited a year for this feast, the only time they eat. They can't move, so light is all they have to attract food. And without protein, they can't metamorphose from larvae to adults. This spectacular light show illuminates the genius of evolution. But the brilliance doesn't stop there. One last connection unites this community like no other. In the season of growth that follows rain, the Cerrado is busy day and night. New termite mounds are under construction, and the lobera trees grow heavy with fruit. A bonanza for the maned wolf. But of all the species, this is the most industrious. Leaf-cutting ants march in formation, doing what they were named to do. They've been invisible during the drought season because they feed on green plants. Now, this is their time. So how do they survive during the other half of the year? Their underground nest provides shelter and security, and also a secret garden. Inside reveals the difference between the ants and the termites. The ants carry their green leaves underground to a fungus garden. Termites eat their dried grasses and convert the cellulose into protein. But leafcutter ants can't do this. Instead, they feed the grasses to the fungus, which absorbs the nutrients. The ants tend the fungus garden all year round, and the fungus returns the favor by providing all the food for the colony. Now, in the wet season of new growth, the ants work overtime to gather food for the fungus garden. The ants carry in leaves, flowers, and, most importantly, seeds. Last night, the maned wolf feasted on fruit. And as he always does to mark his territory, he defecated on top of a small mound. Now the industrious leafcutter ants confiscate the Lobera seeds, which have passed through the wolf's digestive system. And down they go into the nest, where they are fed to the fungi. Some of these seeds germinate inside the nest and grow up out of the fungus garden, through the roof of the tunnels, and out into the sunlight. That explains why Lobera trees usually grow on mounds. With the well-tended fungus garden below providing nutrients for its roots, Lobera trees grow all year in the arid Cerrado, benefiting the wolves and the ants. Another ancient partnership, providing mutual advantage for each link in the chain of life. However, there is one influence that disrupts the beautiful synchronizations of life on the Cerrado. Eventually, humans arrived here. And, like the termites and ants, learn to reap the savanna for their own benefit. Takes to break into numerous huge termite mounds towering on this grassland. But like his mother, he'll take only a strict quota at each feast, and he'll never spend more than 3 minutes on one mound. Buried deep within this young anteater's DNA is an ancient code to ensure he remains true to this remarkable partnership. As long as he honors the contract, the queendoms of termites will continue to thrive, alongside all the other links in the complex chain of life that makes up Brazil's Cerrado, unique to this mutant planet we call Earth.